Welcome back to the Camera Life podcast, everybody. It is the Thursday, the 21st of May, and we are coming to you live from, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and our guest is in Broome in WA. I'm in Victoria. But we are joined today by an amazing guest. We have award-winning fine art photographer and poet from Broome in Western Australia, Michael Jalaru Torres. How are you, Michael?
Yeah, good, Greg. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. It's our pleasure. Thanks for agreeing. Usually we have to sort of, stalk people and abduct them to get them on the show, but you were very willing. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. Before we say hello to the folks that are watching at home at the moment, or the cheeky ones that are watching from the bathroom at work, let's run with a little question to get the conversation started. Given your experience as a photographer, and a big part of what you do is photographing culturally significant events, how important do you think is that sort of documentation of culture for future generations to understand where we were at today?
Yeah, I guess, being Indigenous and I guess the history of, a lot of the Indigenous aspect of Australia has been through a white lens. And we've always been the subject and not the capturer or the photographer. Yep. So nowadays, not saying that white people or non-Indigenous people can take or can't take photos of, Indigenous events and culture. It's just more, there has to be a balance, or even, skewing to the more, we need our people to capture the events because, it not only is it more, in a more positive light because we know what we're capturing and the people feel more comfortable knowing that Aboriginal photographer is capturing their event or capturing themselves.
Yeah,
it also inspires the next generation to pick up a camera because for them it allows them to see that they can be part of that as well.
Yeah.
And it's getting away from always being the subject.
Yep.
And just giving that power back to our people.
Yep. No, I think that's amazing. There's an artist who my partner and I follow, and I can't, off the top of my head, can't think of his name. And what you were just saying about the white lens reminded me of this First Nations artist who would create artworks using, like Australiana souvenirs that used to have images of Indigenous people and Indigenous art on ashtrays and tea towels and oven mitts and things like that. And it was his work sort of comments on how First Nations art was being used for dirty jobs, an ashtray and a dish rag and those sorts of things. So that whole white lens aspect that you spoke of, is that also what led you to found Black Lens? And can you tell us a little bit about what's involved with Black Lens?
That's a part of it. Firstly, I'll just shout out, that's probably Tony Albert you're talking of, the artist, the Australiana stuff.
Yeah.
From Queensland, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, going back to Black Lens, it was just before COVID. It was pre-COVID, and I just moved to Melbourne from Broome, spent a few years there during COVID, and I was surprised coming from Broome to Melbourne that, a major city like that, there wasn't more Black photographers around. And just because I would be shooting the events and stuff and just, walking around, and there was a lack of that presence. And so that led me on a journey of, surely there's more Black photographers out there. So scoured the internet, the socials, and a lot of them found me as well. And we started just doing, chats, one-on-one chats. And then I realized it was quite tiring saying the same thing 20, 30 times in single chats. So I thought, the best way is probably make a collective and allow us to, put all our voices together, make a community, and then see what we can do together to make the presence of Black photographers more visible in mainstream media. And so at that time, Instagram was probably the best way. And, we had a couple of amazing photographers on board, Bobby Lockyer, Tread White, a few others, Marley Morgan, who are very vocal on, making a change, making a difference.
Yeah.
And with me making a bit more networking and contacts, I just started becoming, being more vocal as well, kind of more behind the scenes, trying to make opportunities and create pathways, and then feeding that information back to our group to say, look, this is, if you want to do this, you have to do this, this and that, And so a lot of them, took it on board, and, some of us started from, well, not me personally, but some of them really started in that initial stages as emerging photographers who now have shot for national campaigns or New York Times and yada yada. So they've all gone
making
on.
a difference, yeah.
Yeah, it's making a difference personally, because on a personal level, where they're getting the information and the knowledge of how to be more successful, but then also, these pathways are coming through. Because the Black Lens website has a directory. So, one of the qualms of it all is, mainstream says, I don't know any black photographers, so they always then choose a non-Indigenous photographer. So my point, well, there's a directory now. We've got not everyone, but most people are on it, and you can see where they are in their regions and states.
Yeah.
And so people can chat to them directly to book them for a job or buy a print or whatever. So it's allowing people to go to one place to find a black photographer and hopefully learn a bit more.
And is this something that you've seen other Indigenous communities worldwide identify, that there wasn't enough representation of Indigenous people in this sort of creative space of photography? Do you think that it's a global challenge?
Oh, definitely. But then, globally, each group kind of does it different.
Yeah.
I know, some camera companies do really, embrace that and have, Indigenous photographers as ambassadors and stuff and groups. Australia, not so much. It's quite, still quite colonial, to put it.
Yeah, we're not great at change, are we?
Nah, and because the camera companies and mainstream do reach out to us when it's convenient to them, when NAIDOC week's coming around, and suddenly there's opportunities. But for the rest of the year, it's quite bare. And so, not letting that to stop us in any way, but of course, I think for us it's more to be individually successful as a group, because my viewpoint for them is, don't rely too much on the group to be successful for yourself. You have to learn what you need, and then you go off and be successful. But you have to share that knowledge and opportunities to others, who are coming up. So it's like a circular leadership, role. It's trying to get away from the triangle model where, everyone's asking me and, relying on me in a way where, I want more leaders to step up, because there's things I want to do that, I'll let the younger crew take over and take it beyond where I want to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. And it's inspirational, when we hear of folks who support up and coming photographers. I think that's really vital. We met a couple of young photographers at BFOP last year. Matt Garberg, who we've since had on the podcast, and they have a strong voice, and they have amazing art, amazing eye for photography. And, obviously, like you've discovered, the more you support those coming up, the better off the community becomes overall. At least that's kind of my philosophy on it. Before we move on with any more questions, Michael, do you mind if I just say good day to the chat? And we'll see who's watching. First of all, we have Philip Johnson from the Blue Mountains. G'day, Philip. Usually always here first. Great to see you. Dennis Smith from School of Light. G'day, Den. Haven't heard from you for a bit. You've been pretty busy. Dennis says, how luxurious to be around the studio today for this. Morning legends. Great to have you on board, mate. Roddy Nicholson, morning snappers. And Dennis, again, just picking up what you said earlier about inspires the next generation. Powerful right there. It is. It is. And I think, you know, we always have this. I really dislike gatekeeping in a creative process. It's always bothered me that, you know, some people seem to approach any art form, but also photography, as kind of, you know, you've got to keep all your trade secrets close to your chest. And I think, you know, people like Dennis and Rodney, who have taught other people how to be photographers. You know, Dennis is a workshop instructor at BFOP, and everything he does, all of his creative processes, go onto his website and his YouTube channel. You know, he teaches everyone what he does. There's no gatekeeping involved, and I think that's our responsibility to the next generation of creatives, is to keep that open for them, not make them feel like it's a slog that they to make it. To get a foot in the door, that we have to make it so challenging when we don't, you know. I nearly took myself off track then. Let's, Michael, let's roll back the clock a little bit. Growing up, what were the inspirations behind you becoming a creative person? You know, was your family, were you from a creative family? Was there something that, you know, turned on that spark for photography? Let us know what the early days were like.
Yeah, you know, most of my family are quite creative, and you know, I'm old enough to grow up in the Kodak moment generation, where
Yeah.
you know, I was lucky enough where, you know, my father would, you know, saw value in cameras, and you know, he'd make sure we'd have a camera when we go out camping or going anywhere really. So
Yeah.
I grew up, and as well as my, you know, grandparents as well. So I grew up with a box or photo albums, just like, you know, a lot of people. But that kind of stuck with me, of always having photos around.
Yeah.
And as I grew up, you know, pre-digital, you know, I would move to the city, and then I'd have the, you know, little point and shoot cameras, film cameras.
Yeah.
So, you know, living on a student budget, I would still do a roll of film a week at least, or a fortnight, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Taking photos of friends and doing whatever, pretty much social media type images before social media, you know,
Yeah.
out, you know, having fun, partying, people, meeting new people, taking photos of all that stuff. And then when digital came around, you know, with all of us, it was just too expensive, and shooting on film in Broome was getting more expensive, and getting film developed was getting harder and harder.
Yeah.
So I just took a break from photography, probably about 10 years, I think,
Yeah.
or
Wow.
more, and got into more video, radio and television.
Yeah.
So spent, 15 years in radio and television, camera operating, editing, pretty much everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then, Canon brought out the 7D, and I thought, all right, that's the camera I'm going to get back into photography.
Yeah.
Bought the 7D, just with a kit lens, and stayed in a box for about 6 months because I had no motivation to take a photo, because I didn't know what to take a photo of. I've been out of photography for so long, I didn't know what to shoot. So when I finally got the courage, I just did everything what everyone does. Did landscape, try to take photos of people.
Yep.
Did the one wedding that pretty much almost breaks you.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we've done it all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be honest, learning more about lenses. So just saved up, just getting different lenses, and, you know, quality lenses.
Yeah.
And realizing that I did have a knack for capturing people. I had no patience for landscape, and events like weddings and stuff was a bit too stressful.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you have to find your happy place in the middle, sometimes between, you know, the hugely popular genres. You know, I suck at landscapes. I don't, and Justin has talked about this on the show before, where, you know, he's looking at the landscape and we don't see it because that's not what we are used to shooting. It's not really our vibe. I'm the same with you. I've shot a few weddings, but mostly for friends or friends of friends. But other than that, yeah, just needed to avoid it at all costs. It just felt too much. But yeah, finding your happy place in the middle. I'm curious to know when you were working in film and television and radio, were there elements of those roles that informed, or first of all inspired you to get that 7D, but also then, you know, informed how you approach photography moving forward? What were the takeaways from those years in media?
Probably the most importance that I did. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember.
No, don't be sorry.
It was just trying to remember the era. You know, you're talking about 90s, where everything was very still that bold flash.
Yeah.
Everything in focus kind of style. And yeah, center composition type thing. And when I went to shooting for film and cinema, it was more, you know, rule of thirds and you know, a bit more natural light and so
More of an artistic approach to it.
Yeah, it was more storytelling, I would say, opposed to just capturing the moment. What can you do to tell a story in a frame?
Yeah.
And at that same time, just thinking back because everyone was coming from film, so everything was, you know, bold, bright, everything's in focus type thing, you know. Yeah. And then as people did realize, you know, you can shoot with a faster lens and stuff and get more bokeh and that kind of cinema feel, that's what kind of got that hunger to shoot again. Yeah. Because I just didn't like the headlight, you know, deer and headlight look, you know, that 80s, 90s style, you know, that point and shoot flash style.
Yeah. I feel that we're going back to that a little bit, at least.
It is going back. Yeah, it is going back. You know, everything cycles. So yeah, I got back in. I said, I could probably enjoy shooting stills with what I've learned from cinematography, you know, and even news media coverage. So yeah, it was a nice segue back into photography. Yeah. But when I did go back into photography and found out what I didn't like, I realized I really love to do fine art style shooting, you know. Yeah. It is the subject. Strip away all the noise, you know, and just shoot that. So when I did get into photography properly, it became more fine art. Yep. But I'll try everything else just to hone the skills, see what worked, what didn't. And it allowed me to really focus. And I would always have sketchbooks or notebooks, and I would sketch out my ideas, make lighting plans and stuff. Yep. I still have them all now. So I would sit down.
Do you still use a notebook these days when you're planning a project? Yeah, I'm the same. I always carry one.
I map it all out so that I make all the adjustments and stuff before I even press the camera shutter button, and that can take weeks to months. And then finally get it right, then I've got the person involved just really quick. One, it makes me look like I know what I'm doing. And, you know, it allows the person to come in and, you know, get what's needed, that's done and gone.
Understand the storytelling element of that image you're trying to capture,
Yeah. Because, you know, it could be an hour session, but we'll probably talk for 40 minutes. Yeah. And the actual shooting will take less than 5, maybe 10 minutes. Yeah. Where if you don't have a plan, you'd be there for an hour, talk for probably 5 minutes and try and shoot everything over 40, 50 minutes. So, you know, which then obviously everyone gets tired. So learning to do the other way, make all the plans before that and know the subject and everything, and allows me just to be more efficient and to be honest, talking to the subject and getting to know them a bit more, getting them to relax, to know what we're trying to do and trying to capture. I want more time to do that opposed to fiddling around with lighting setups and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot to be said for disarming your subject through natural conversation, just through talking about whatever it is that you're doing, what you're trying to portray, but also hearing from them. I think that's really critical. When you were shooting film back in the day, did you study film at school, or did you do that yourself from home?
I did one course at TAFE, which was just a couple of weeks, and that was just black and white, shooting on black and white film and just developing it. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Not a lot of places up in Broome to learn about photography.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Then. Yeah.
And we didn't even have a dark room up here. It's just send all your rolls to the chemist. Yeah. And get it all done, that kind of style. So it was just where I was very limiting to learn it. And which was, one of the reasons why, going back to black lenses, a lot of our, myself and a lot of people who are in these regional places, you don't have the opportunity to learn about photography. There's no camera store. There's no dark room, Yeah. So no one really got into it unless you get those little disposable film cameras. But you don't really learn anything using them. So once digital happened and camera phones, that's when a lot more of Indigenous people get into photography. Became more mainstream and widespread.
Yeah. Do you think that we live in a world now with social media where people can take a photo and instantly share it to the world, and that's a different type of instant gratification, both for the photographer and for the viewers. Do you think that some of that magic is lost that we used to experience in film days? Like I grew up in the burbs here in Melbourne, and my nan was into photography, and she kind of got me into it in the early days. And I still remember those little, I think it was the 110 Hanamax, those little very thin flat cameras that had the little cartridge cassette film. She got me one of those. I can't remember what model it was. I can't even remember if the brand is right. But there was that wonder and whimsy of you didn't know what was on the film, and you wouldn't know for a week. We'd go up to Kmart near their house and drop off the film, and then you'd get a phone call, a week later saying, on your home phone, saying that, your film was ready to come and get it. And that was when you got to then enjoy the gratification of what you'd shot. But you had time to anticipate it, to think about it. Do you think that we're missing that magic from the film days?
Definitely. Companies and that are trying to bring the film feeling, but when it's instant, you don't really learn. I mean, when back in the day when you spend, your money for 24 frames and you only get 1 out of 24, next time you learn to do the bloody settings properly, and so you learn a lot quicker because, you're spending money on it. But I mean, I was actually talking to Warwick about this a couple of years ago that, there needs to be an app where it locks off, where, you take you got your film stock and you've got 24 frames on the camera. Yeah. Then locks it onto the SD card, then you put it in your computer and then, sends it, does its little magic. Then you got to wait 24 hours or 2 hours, then you see the photos. So
there's a couple of cameras out there that do that. Yeah. Now. So sorry, I cut you off. I get it. Yeah. Locking down access to those images. So when Fujifilm released I think they did it last year, the X-Half, that little half frame digital camera. Despite what I think about it, I did like the idea that you then needed to you couldn't see the images. There was no real display screen, and you could lock it in, like whether it was a 24-36, roll of digital film, and then you could only see it once you'd taken all 24 or 36 shots. So you can't go in and peek at your images until that fake roll is filled, and then you have to use the phone app to develop and process your images, and you get a contact sheet and all that sort of stuff. And I thought that was a really interesting take on, using digital technology to replicate the film days, because there's a lot of, especially for Fujifilm, there's a lot of love still for their Instax. Their Instax series is just booming. They're building more factories in Japan to make the cameras and the film. It's doing so well. And it's that whole instant, bright flash, huge dark shadows in the background kind of thing that is really popular at the moment. And I'm pretty sure we saw, because every Monday night we do a podcast where we read the news, local, the recent camera and film and camera technology news. And I'm fairly sure someone had developed a camera that you couldn't access, for like a period of time, like I think days. And it sort of added that delay. I think for me, the importance of, or the takeaway from the film days was that you're taking the shots and waiting and then going and picking them up and discovering, standing there at the service counter at Kmart, what you'd actually taken. That's almost part of the story, back in those days. It was part of that process and part of that photographer's experience of, I finally finished my roll and then I went off and had it processed and I had to wait a week and I didn't know what was going to work. And, all of those sorts of things are still part of that journey. But I feel that we've lost that, in today's age with socials. I mean, there's lots of positives and benefits of social media for photographers, that's for sure. But it can be a little heartbreaking when you take a photo, you instantly share it, and the algorithm doesn't give it to anyone. No one ever sees your work. That's the other side of it that I kind of dislike. So mostly self-taught as a photographer. How did you find that transition? You shot film in the early days. You then worked in radio and TV and film, and then you went and picked up a Canon DSLR. What was that transition into digital technology like for you? Do you remember what it was like first trying to work out that camera?
Well, luckily I had, knowledge from the video cameras using, in the film and television era. So, because went from Betacam to Digibeta. So for me, it was like, I saw the holy land of digital for where it's going. And I was just waiting for the, photography world to catch up on it because it was a bit slow. So I was looking forward to it and, knowing that the workflow was going to be easier and what you could do, in post with editing. So I was quite, I was really gunning for it. But obviously, the technology, and it was more, to be honest, it was more, the photo editing software wasn't up to speed back then, because, having to bring up all your photos in Photoshop was a nightmare. You'd have all these dodgy photo catalog software, like, just wasn't working that well. Apple Photos was terrible. Microsoft Photo Album was terrible. And when Lightroom came out, I was like, about time. But obviously there's a lot of issues with Lightroom as well. Photo Mechanic is great, but I wish, they had some better preset stuff that you can do quick edits, batch edits on it instead of having to use Photoshop. I think on the software side of digital photography, there's still room to improve.
Absolutely,
and because it's still locking you to a computer. I mean, at the moment, I do a lot of events. I shoot, and then I use Lightroom Mobile on the phone to just dump the photos and send it directly to my client. If the camera companies had their own, own better way of shooting and selecting on camera and just sending it off, because each camera company does it differently. Like, I love the rating button on Canon, the hard button. It's just the best thing ever. The Fuji one is a nightmare, but you got to go menu and then through it all. So having a hard button is great. There's room to improve. through
Yeah.
hardware and software.
Yeah, there is.
The next generation, picking up a camera, taking a photo and sending it's going to be so much easier in 10 years.
Yeah.
They're going to look at us with SD cards and go, what the hell was that? Because it's probably all going to be all onboard data.
Yeah.
And,
Cloud upload instantly, all that sort of stuff.
Oh,
Is it Hasselblad or Leica? Don't some of the Leica digitals have built-in memory? It's not a lot, but I think there is some in it. I can't remember the brand, but there is a series of cameras out there where they have internal memory, and you can add SD cards and things like that, obviously. And I often wonder whether we'll move away from using computers to edit photos, that either, fingers crossed this doesn't happen, AI will be built into the cameras and you can select a look and a style and it will just do it for you. Or there's better in-camera editing opportunities. We're both Fuji shooters, and every now and then I usually wait until I get home and plug in the SD card for my shoots. But every now and then when I find something special, or if I'm traveling and I particularly like a shot, I'll use the in-camera RAW converter to turn it into a JPEG. And like you, I see a lot of opportunity for editing software to do better. And not maybe, I use some AI for like denoise and stuff, but that's about it. But I can see more and more AI functionality seeping into Lightroom and Photoshop and all the other applications. Where do you stand on the use of AI in photography?
it's a great tool. I mean, I use AI now to help selections.
Oh yeah,
Get rid of all the blinks and and stack all the ones that similar. So helping to select work and rate them and culling, great tool. Like saves you hours on. If there was a way to do that in camera, God, you'll have no battery left. But
yeah, yeah,
but I think AI should always be seen as a tool, and you still got to be creative. It's just a tool. But even if people go, oh, you can take a photo with AI or create a photo, well, you got to have the right prompt as well. So
yeah,
there's skill to that as well. But people, this is my view on AI, and especially in the creative industry. Like, it's going to be easy for anyone to create anything, but then people will still want something that's made by a human or hand drawn or something. So it'll cycle back around where an AI image will be a lot cheaper, but people will want something more custom by a human, and
more authentic.
it'll be more authentic, more expensive, but that's value to you, and people will pay that, because they know they can get something AI cheap. Where they want a person to take a photo of them and have that conversation and all that stuff, people will want that again, and they'll be happy to pay for that. So you just got to write it out. There's fear at the beginning. Whenever technology comes in, the same thing with digital cameras. There's a huge fear of that, but you've just got to ride out the wave, and you got to be prepared and use AI as a tool to help you be more efficient, I guess. And because no one wants to, if it saves you 4 hours a day behind a computer, then you can be in that 4 hours. You probably 1 hour. You got 3 hours to just be, enjoy life or shoot more. So you just got to use it as a right tool at the right opportunity, right moment, and then it's, I don't know. There shouldn't be so much fear around it.
It's interesting.
What it does to the landscape is a different story. In the environment, with the water use and power. But I think as a tool, it should be seen as always a tool.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that there's opportunity for AI, especially for professionals who shoot volume stuff. Like you said, getting rid of the blinks, getting rid of the doubles, getting rid of the out of focus. Always having that hand on the wheel to make sure that the sort and the color is going correctly the way you want to see it. I think there's a huge benefit in that. I think my big issue with AI is the image creation stuff. And that's a whole different kettle of fish compared to what we're talking about. Yeah, AI is a tool and it's there and we should use it, and I do to some degree, mostly just like in Lightroom, like I said. Having said that, I'm kind of getting to a point in my photography where I almost feel like just shooting JPEG and just taking my images straight out of camera. And as we know, being Fuji shooters, Fujifilm's straight out of camera JPEGs are the best in the world. So, I have an objection to how much Lightroom is now charging for their platform and for cloud storage. And I just feel that maybe there's an opportunity there for me to just ditch that whole part of my workflow. And it's a big leap, it's a big leap to go from having, high res raw files to JPEGs, but I believe that it will make me a better photographer because I'll have to get as much as I can right in camera. I can't just spray and pray and then go back to the computer and let that do the magic for me. It's just a consideration. I want to jump to a quick comment before we move ahead. Actually, there's a couple here. Wookie has joined. G'day, Shane. Good to see you in, mate. I'm not sure who this one is. Morning.
Oh, that's Tiffany.
Someone you know?
Yeah.
Hey, we've got a super fan. Hey, Tiffany, thanks for watching. Who else is here? We said hello to Shane. Lisa Leach is here. G'day, Lisa. Good morning to you too. Let me have a look. What else we got? Bruce Moyle. Morning, everyone. Listening between appointments. And then again from Dennis Smith. Michael, your Instagram is full of stories, connection. AI can't create that, mate. And that's a very good point. When I was at the Fujifilm Creator Summit weekend before last, the general manager of Fujifilm Australia got up and gave a really great, grounded talk about how AI is disrupting, image creation and content creation. And it was good. It gave me a little bit of hope, that we're not just going to sail down a path of pure AI image creation. That the word he used was authentic, that AI has already read everything we've ever written that's online. It's already looked at pretty much every photo we've ever put online, us, corporations, whoever, but it hasn't lived a single moment to understand what those experiences were. And I thought that was a really good way of looking at it, that people will still seek authenticity, that there will still be a need for photography, genuine, authentic photography, without the need for image creation. So that's my view. Michael, I want to shift focus a little bit to where you are at today and what sort of projects you're working on today. I found a couple of different Instagram accounts that you're responsible for. One is BME Surf. Can you tell me what BME Surf is?
Oh, no, it's just Broome surfing. So it's just a beach life in Broome. And for the last couple of years, I've enjoyed just going down, meeting the surfers and just taking photos of surf, because it's quite rare to have good waves here. Usually it happens around cyclone season. And it's allowed me to just, sometimes, being a professional photographer or working photographer, however you say it, you just get inundated with creating images, editing, setting it, invoicing, it's that we're going down to the beach. It allows me just to escape a bit. And I'll never be a professional surf photographer, but it's just, I'm enjoying being part of nature and trying to capture something that's so random, like, capturing waves and people on waves. And allows me to connect with other people within the Broome community that I wouldn't necessarily associate with. So, which I think, I'm not telling people what to do, but I think sometimes we need to create or step away from our day-to-day stuff and, working photography life and create something different, because we see some of our photographers travel around the world on photo trips, to other countries, and I can't do that just of with life, but I can go around and just take photos of something that's totally different to what people think I take photos of,
Yeah.
So
No, I think that's wonderful. It's almost like a secret little pleasure, that you've got this little side hustle that's just for you. It's about your experience. It's about community. And does the local surf community, do they interact with you? Do you guys, share stories?
Oh, I've it's funny. One of the guys said that goes, I love what you're doing, taking photos while surfing, but the negative aspect is now there's heaps more people surfing. So, so they're complaining about, having too much people on their wave and in their hidden spots, which, a bit of a giggle, but I have seen a lot more younger people, coming out and always hitting me up, did you take a photo of me today and stuff like that. So it's great, and like for me, it's just getting out into the elements again. And usually I'll just have headphones on, listen to podcasts or music, and just shoot away. I shoot from the beach. I don't go in the water, so it's just it's just relaxful,
Yeah, it sounds like bliss, to be honest.
And I caught up with Russell Ord in last year, and and God, he was telling me he was coming back from his shoulder injury and stuff like that. And God, thank God I don't go to water, especially down there. It's bloody cold, So
well, we interviewed Russell. Maybe it was the start of last year. He was one of our earlier guests, and I remember he telling us about that shoulder injury. That he was out of action for a bit. I can't remember how it happened, but and so you're never tempted to go out, and do they ever try to sort of coax you into getting on the board?
No, I mean I used to surf when I was younger, but no, I'll probably have a heart attack. I'll jump on a board now. A lot of work on the waves. God.
We don't have that same agility we once had.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to shoot it, and send them the photos. It's a great thing to do something, for the community, and for me, it's a surf. I mean, people do that, with street photography or the local footy or whatnot, and for me, it's just surf at the moment. I'm enjoying that. Might change in a while, but that's good. Like harping back, I think every photographer needs their little hobby, what they want to shoot, because we do enough to shoot for our pocket, but then we have to shoot for our soul. That little
that's
why you want to shoot, and it could be like using an old film camera or a camera that's not necessarily great for productivity, in an efficient way for work, but it has a character that you just love shooting with it, and
So you
for me,
think there's I think that's great, and I think that there's value in that for any photographer, regardless of whether you're a professional or you're a dedicated birder or landscape is your jam. I think trying other genres, even just for a short period project, I think that's really, really important, but also valuable, because no matter what you shoot or when you shoot it, it's always adding to your skill set. You're always learning something, hopefully, and going into a genre that you wouldn't have put yourself in, will teach you a lot. For example, Lisa Leach, who's in the chat, Lisa's an amazing, only been doing photography for just over a year, amazing landscape photographer. And we caught up in Melbourne in CBD a few weeks back for street photography lessons, because I'm a street photographer, and it was such a fun experience, and the feedback I got from Lisa later was that, she learned stuff from it. She understood a different genre a little bit better. And we spent, an amazing hour, 2 hours hanging out, just, experiencing the light together and capturing frames. So I think that's a really valuable piece of advice for any photographer, really.
Yeah. So, sometimes, people get too obsessed about getting the best body and camera. This is it. This, it can do everything, but sometimes you don't want a camera that can do everything.
Yeah.
You want a camera that makes you want to go out and take a photo.
Yeah.
And people need to just stop chasing, the headlines and stuff and trying to get the best, the latest. It's like sometimes it's just, you need a camera that makes you want to go out and take photos. Otherwise, it's soulless, you just, I hate a camera that feels soulless.
Yeah.
It's, you shouldn't have to try to get the perfect shot unless the job needs the perfect shot.
Yeah.
You should be able to capture that emotion, that moment.
With whatever you've got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless. It is interesting. I follow a couple of groups on Facebook, as I'm sure we all do. And one of them is the relatively new Fujifilm XE5 community. And the amount of times I've seen people, question whether the camera's any good, which is fine. It's a fair question if you're going to drop, a couple of grand. But also asking what lens I should get to go with it, with no context. I'm a birder, what would be the best, but none of that. It's just, what's the best lens for this camera? And it always baffles me, because often I'll say, well, what lenses do you have? And they'll say, oh, I've got this. I said, well, then that's the best lens for the camera right now. And look, don't get me wrong. I've had my fair share of FOMO and gas, from desiring the next generation or the next model of camera or better glass or whatever it may be. But, I took 10 years before I stepped up and bought my first professional Fuji Prime, current generation. I was shooting with whatever I had. I had some smaller, the smaller f2. I think they called them Fujicrons. Fujifilm didn't. Influencers did. So yeah, I think you're right. I think, if you can't take the shot with what you've got, then a new camera's not going to make that easier.
No. And there's certain lenses for certain jobs or certain, that you definitely need. But, the old, 50 mil just tops a lot of, it's amazing lens.
Yeah.
And I think 35, that focal range is that's all you need.
It's pretty sweet.
I did years just shooting on 50 mil and a 200 prime,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did a lot of that work just using two lenses. And, and that was with Canon. So I had the 1.4 50 mil and the f2 200 prime. Two favorite lenses. And then when I did the switch to Fuji, I just got the equivalent.
Yeah.
But I did splurge and I bought the f2 200. And it was
how are you finding that?
ridiculous.
That's
ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous lens I've ever owned. It's so good.
It's pretty crazy.
But oh god, bloody expensive. But
that'd be good for surf photography. It's fast and it's sharp.
I do a lot of it with it. I'm lucky enough to be close enough for the range and the reach. But I do a lot of it in. Sometimes I'll pull it out in events because it is small and light. I mean, light enough after a while for just for that low light shooting, and brilliant lens.
Yeah, it is a cracker. Andrew Hall, who I mentioned earlier, the motorsport photographer, who's also the Fuji ambassador. He was, I think he was one of the first people to get that lens. I know that he tested it prior to launch, and he lugs that thing all over the world. He loves it. But I remember, I think when it launched, it was like $9,000 or something. Originally when it came, it was ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Maybe not that much, but it was a lot.
It's below 7 nowadays, I think.
Yeah. Which for a piece of Fujifilm glass feels ridiculously expensive, but it's a beautiful lens.
Yeah. I mean, every brand should have an f2 200 mil. It's just sweet spot for me. I just love shooting that range. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's I've done the silly thing of also jumping in Fuji medium format as well. So
There's nothing silly about that, my friend.
oh, it's what camera do you use? In certain jobs or certain projects. But having the same system and the same colors, helps a lot with the consistency. And I mean, I do shoot a lot of JPEG, going back to what you were saying. And the workflow is I shoot a lot of JPEG, and then the ones that I love, I convert to DNGs to keep. Then I just delete the rest. Because I made that mistake years ago, shooting JPEG and just leaving it. And then going back to the files now, they've all just, look horrible. So tip out there, if you're shooting JPEG, convert them to DNGs.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Because, keeps the quality there.
Yeah.
Doesn't degrade.
Yeah.
That's a big tip because I think
that's great advice. I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah, every time you open up a JPEG and view it, it degrades. So, and over time, it just degrades. So, if you convert it straight away after you shoot it to DNGs, digital negative file, then it's basically like a raw file. Then it stays how you've shot it, but it'll stay like that forever.
Yeah.
So, good tip out there for JPEG shooters.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want your photos to look crap afterwards.
No, you don't. You don't want to dig them out and realize that that you've lost that quality. I lost my train of thought now. Where did we go? All right, so current projects. What are you working on at the moment that sort of falls under your fine art banner?
For me, commercially, I've been pretty successful. So actually shooting fine art stuff has been pretty non-existent for the last 5 years, I'd say. 4 or 5 years. So now I'm trying to get back into it. And trying to obviously over 4 or 5 years your viewpoint changes, and so now it's just trying to find a way to get inspired again. And and also you have to see what everyone else is doing as well. And so working on ways to stand out as well, especially in the fine art world. It's exciting. I just need to sit down and do it, and it's all that planning.
Yeah, you need to get your notebook back out. Reading through your bio in preparation for today's interview, I picked up on a couple of things. One, that you've had work displayed, all over the world in exhibitions. I think I saw Germany, China, as well as several locations here in Melbourne. When you have an international, whether it be a piece or a series of images that are being displayed overseas, how does that come about, and how do you send the files and they print them? Do you send the prints? Do you go to that country to see your exhibition, or is it all done remotely? Let me know tell us a little bit about that.
It really depends on the exhibition. Like, I haven't been to a launch internationally yet, but I have seen the work afterwards. As in visiting the space. Usually I'll send the digital files depending on what country and get them to print it. Sometimes it's a lot easier and cheaper, to be honest. The funniest story really was doing work in China, and this was a few years ago now. And it wasn't an issue, but it was really intriguing how my work and censorship would come up. And so it was a bit of back and forth, because you got to send them a selection, and then they've got to go through their censorship people to see what they would recommend using.
Right.
kind of like saying, don't use that one, but, you know, they do it really politely, like, oh, maybe not that one, sorry.
Is that because of different values in different countries? Like some countries don't want to show skin or whatever it may be. What are some of the examples of censorship that you've dealt with?
Yeah, so some of the work I did send was kind of like, you know, fine art nude, well, you know, with exposed body parts in a way, with paint and everything. And I was pretty worried about that. But then because they were like solo shots, but they said, no, the concerns are the one with the two people touching or, you know, just in proximity.
Wow.
So it's more about showing the intimacy, or could be intimacy, versus the body. So you could have a nude body, that's fine. You just got to have them by themselves.
Yeah.
And opposed to in the same frame.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, that was interesting because, well, now I know. And I had issues like, oh shit, do I reshoot everything, or do I, you know, crop, or, you know, do you censor your own work just to send it over so it can be, you know, exhibited? But knowing that is just certain works couldn't be shown, which I was fine with. But, you know, so yeah, from you know, coming from Australia, so that made me realize, certain countries you'll come across that. And I guess as a creator, you have to either go, no, I'll never show my works in that country because it goes against my whole artistic beliefs.
Yep.
Or do you have backup work that kind of speaks of your story or what you want to tell? Or do you go through and censor everything yourself, you know? So that's something you have to really, you know, come across when you do it. And you either have to be really flexible or you just don't do it.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Where do you draw a line, like you said, between your artistic integrity that when you were taking the shot, that's the shot. You know, that's the one that compelled you to edit it and, you know, and send it over. If anyone else in the chat has ever dealt with censorship from a client or as part of an exhibition, let us know in the comments. You can do that now, or if you're watching us back a bit later, you can add it to the YouTube comments. Let us know and we'll check it out, see what people thought. It's an interesting topic, censorship, especially when you're you know, sending work to different countries. But how does an exhibition, say in China, come about? Were you approached by someone from China? Was it something that you pursued actively first yourself? How did it come about?
So for a while, I've been trying to do a show in China, and then Moshe at Head On Photo Festival was sending a few bits of work for the, what's it called, Pinyao Photo Festival.
Okay.
Pinyao, whatever it's called. They've got multiple photo festivals over there. So yeah, he asked if I could send some works in a group show, and that's when going through all that censorship issues with that. And then I've done another show with the Australian Embassy over there, and which was a bit more knowing from what happened in the past. So I had a better curated set of images to work from, and it was pretty streamlined then. But there's a couple of shows I want to do, like solo shows that I've just got to create new work for. And then going through DFAT is probably the best way if anyone wants to do a show in China and you don't know any curators or galleries. If you go through DFAT, then they can really help you get in touch with people.
Yeah.
Or
so DFAT is an Australian government body, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what does it stand for again? Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, is it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Something like that? Yeah.
Okay. So there's quite a lot of support through the China and Australia partnership.
Wow.
So they're always looking for content from Australia.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
So, I've been to China a few times. It's an amazing country. Definitely, if you've got an opportunity, you should go. And of course, you know, I do have some works at a museum in Leipzig in Germany, which is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
I do plan to go there to check it out. But you know, then my fine art kind of slowed right down as the commercial work picked up. And
Yeah.
finding that balance has been the hardest thing, to be honest, that I've faced.
Yeah.
Because, money up front is a lot easier to play with than gambling on an exhibition and
On selling prints.
print
Yeah.
sales after,
It's given how much it costs usually to print and frame your works for an exhibition.
Yeah.
It can be quite a perilous
yeah,
gamble.
yeah.
Interesting. And so from your time, you've been to China, you said a few times, and it's a place you recommend. What did sort of working with the people in China, what did that teach you about, other than, you've got to be careful what you curate? Was there anything about your core craft, anything about that you discovered that, people in China were doing differently to you as a photographer? Is there anything that you adopted or saw that was really interesting?
I haven't spent a lot of time with them personally about photography stuff, but my mate Bronic's been over there quite a lot with residencies and stuff. So he's probably the best person to talk about. He's done a couple of residencies and exhibitions there, and it's like, I can't recommend China any more than, like, you got to go there. Like, it's their hunger for art and learning from other cultures and countries, it's just immense. And they really give you the respect, especially, in photography and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
It's I mean, there's a lot. All I can say is if you got an opportunity, definitely go for it.
Yeah. I say the same to people about Japan. I've been there a few times, and I barely scratched the surface. I could spend years there and not even get out of Tokyo from photography point of view. And my folks went to China a few years ago. They loved it. I mean, they found a lot of the walking hard, but I would be interested in going to China. I'd love to go to Seoul and parts of South Korea. But just at the moment, travel doesn't feel as fun as it used to. There's a lot of crap going on.
And
let's just take. Go on.
Before I switch, the beauty of photography, it's a universal language. When you go over to them countries and you've got the camera and you meet other photographers, it's just, you create a bond, Even if you are, if you go by the camera brand rivalries, you still have a bond, especially if you're shooting a certain subject's the same. And that's one of the beautiful things about being a photographer and traveling is, there's a universal language there. And it's a beautiful thing when you do, come across that, randomly as well,
Yeah, I agree. And you don't have to know the language to overcome that, to achieve that. It's just a smile and a nod and, a bit of mutual respect when you're standing there at the same street corner or in front of the same temple or whatever it may be, and you're both holding a camera. You don't have to say words. It's just that look, you get it. Just before we move on, I just want to do a quick ad read because I've apparently got to keep the lights on, pay the bills. But folks, today's episode of the Camera Life podcast is proudly brought to you by Lucky Straps. Head to luckystraps.com. We make handmade, Australian-made leather camera straps to fit any camera and to give you comfort, security, and confidence in how you connect with your craft. So head to luckystraps.com, and if you happen to drop something in the cart, use code Greg at checkout and you'll get yourself a healthy discount. Just don't tell Justin. Okay, please. What else do I want to tell people? Oh, Camera Life podcast. So we do this twice a week and we are always live so that you can talk to us while we're talking to guests, or on Monday evenings, we have our random photography show where we talk about industry news. We do live unboxings and we look at your images. That's right. You can send in your images. Just send it to justin@luckystraps.com.au with, one, maybe two images and your camera settings, what you shot the image with, as well as a little story about your experience in getting that image. And we will bring those images up and read out your story on our Monday night shows, which is 7:30 p.m. every Monday evening, Australian Eastern Standard Time. A couple of quick things you can do to make sure that that works for you. First is give us a like for this episode of the Camera Life podcast. It lets us know that you're there, that you enjoyed what we do. But also hit the subscribe button and tickle the bell icon to all notifications. And that way you'll get notified in advance of every episode of the Camera Life podcast before it goes live. But let's crack on with the interview. Michael, you mentioned that, you know, the balance for you at the moment between personal or fine art projects and commercial work. You're obviously doing a lot more time on commercial work. What sort of commercial work are you prominently doing or have been doing?
Mainly events and festivals.
Yeah.
Government-based work as well. I am getting a bit more back into video because a lot more video projects have been knocking on the door.
Yeah, wow.
Which is a good and bad thing.
Tell me about that. What are the good parts of video and what are the bad parts of getting back into video?
If anyone's worked in video, it's the editing. You know, hats off to editors who love to edit. You know, that's the hardest and longest part of it all, where, you know, just being the camera operator, just shoot and hand off is the best thing in the world. And it's one of the reasons why I went to photography, is because you just go shoot a job, minimal editing, you know?
Yeah.
Where video's the other way around. But, you know, it is what it is. And it is a lot easier to do video nowadays than what it was. So, and especially the cameras are all right still. Yeah, could be better, but just the workflow where you can edit anything really just on a laptop. I mean, I come from the day where you need a huge desktop bloody computer to edit, where nowadays, you know, it's pretty good, pretty easy.
Yeah, you can do it on your phone.
You just need time to do it, you know, and that's the hardest thing, is finding time to sit and edit. And I mean, because I've got many hats, so, you know, we do have a Indigenous fashion festival coming up next week, so I'm part of. So, you know, capturing that, and done the Gama Festival for a couple of years, and then the Darwin Arts Fair. When I was in Melbourne, did a lot of stuff on the East Coast. It's a lot of travel, especially up and down WA, and you know, a lot of my work is outside of Broome, which is good and bad.
It's a big country.
Yeah, and you know, there's not many photographers over here, which is good, you know, for commercial wise for me. But because of the travel and everything, you don't want to do all the jobs because it'll be a nightmare. You know, so you can pick and choose, and I mean, I'm in a position where I can pick and choose. You know, it's taken not that long, but still a long time to get to that point.
Yeah,
and you know, I'd rather do what I do now than dig a hole. You know, so
that's fair.
What it is.
That's fair. Couple of takeaways for me, you know, about the whole video editing thing. I'm terrible at video. I have very little knowledge about shooting video with modern cameras. Even though my Fuji cameras are more than capable, it's just something that doesn't call to me. Whereas someone like Justin, you know, he shoots hybrid off his R5 Mark II. You know, he'll jump from video to stills on the one job. But it's the editing side of things that always intimidated me as well. Like I've edited a couple of little videos, but, you know, and I think it's a big part of why we go live, other than being available for our community for that, you know, that direct connection, like now when we're talking. You know, I hate video. I hate editing video. I hate video production for me personally. And Justin's a really lazy editor. So we just do everything live. It's a way to avoid the editing nightmare. Question.
I wish the industry would stop their fascination with building hybrid cameras.
Yeah, you reckon
I'll
it
just
needs to separate?
Just separate. Just build the best stills camera you can possibly do.
Yeah.
And then you've obviously, a lot of them have got the best video cameras they can possibly do.
Yeah.
It's just, it's annoying as hell.
Yeah.
And I'd rather the best stills camera with no video features on it at all.
I think that's interesting because I've said that too. You know, let's just strip back, and I wonder how much that would alter design and performance and read speeds and all those little things that a camera has to hold for video performance and video recording and audio and all those bits and pieces. If you remove that, could you make a better stills camera? You know,
well, it's like IBIS is the most stupid thing in the world for stills camera. Like, and they've only put that in there for video and for lazy photographers who want to shoot with one hand, you know. So if you remove that, makes the camera lighter, makes it cheaper, you know, because even you know, high-end cinema cameras don't have IBIS.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, because they want the most perfect and clean image, and any you know, adjustment to it they don't want. So that's my view. And then you can have that's why you do see video you know, companies coming out with their hybrid cameras now with the video cinema cameras with minimal stills features on them now.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's shifting that way.
Yeah.
And yeah,
and that's
because, you know,
I mean, the technology is very similar, isn't it? It's just you don't always have to have them in the one body. You know, like the Nikon ZR, it's intended as a cine camera, you know, for filmmakers, and it's incredibly accessible and affordable for people starting out in filmmaking. And then Canon have just released that what is it, the R60V, which is basically a competitor to the ZR from Nikon. Yeah, and like I said, I've often wondered what would happen if they just took the video out of, you know, and just created a powerhouse of a stills camera, you know, and remove that side of it. What that would do? Would it alter the price? Would it, you know, would it improve performance? You know, how would that work? But I think it'd take an incredibly brave step for one of the big players in the field to go and do that, to say, here's the perfect stills camera. You can't shoot video, you know, that could go either way for them. And traditionally camera companies weren't great at taking big risks like that, you know, because they come back to bite them or they flop or, you know, and we've seen it recently, you know, the Fujifilm X1/2, you know, brilliant concept, far too expensive for what it was, but look at the environment we're in. But it was brave and bold, at least. You know, it was a half-frame digital camera replicating half-frame 35 film. Yeah, it's a bold step, and that's worth celebrating in itself. Because that's how the industry keeps moving forward, isn't it? That's how we evolve with camera technology, so through people being brave. Let me just jump into a couple of comments, and then I want to finish up that part of it with one of the comments Dennis has left. Where were we? Okay, David Dare Parker has joined us. G'day, David. Great to see you. He had coffee. This is when we were talking about Russell Ord earlier. Had coffee with Russ a couple of days ago. And then he went on to say, spent some time with Tace recently. Loved the ideals behind Black Lens as well. Craft is in very good hands. That's a lovely comment. Who's Tace?
She's a WA-based female photographer. She studied cinematography, I believe, in Sydney. So Tace Stevens. She's won a couple of awards this year or last year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, she's really good. Should,
Think she'll be up for an interview?
I'm sure she's not that shy, so I think she'll be up for it.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, I'll take note. Next comment here is from Lisa Leach, talking about our street photography afternoon. It was a great afternoon, Greg. It's so good to see the world through another photographer's eyes, or through another's eyes in general. And I think that's a very powerful message, a very important message that we don't see a lot of, seeing someone else's point of view. From Wookie Shane, Laowa now have a 200 f2 for about 2,500 AUD. So even that's becoming more accessible. and Laura have just announced their first autofocus lenses, so it'd be interesting to see what they bring out next. Lucinda Goodwood's joined us. Good morning. Good morning, kiddo. Great to see you. And here's another question from Dennis. Do you get much pushback here in Australia around the content of your work? Do you face that at all? I'm not going to say outright discrimination, but just pushback on the content.
I've had a various pushback and gatekeeping. Sometimes judges and stuff feel like my work is not Indigenous, or they don't know I'm Indigenous, because it doesn't fit their stereotypical view of what Indigenous photography is, whatever that is.
Right.
It's sometimes the subject matter, they feel like it's offensive, but this is coming from a non-Indigenous person.
Yeah, I was going to ask
my
whether
work,
those people are Indigenous or they're not.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, through the curators and judges and that and whatnot, who just lack of understanding, to be honest. Think that, the Indigenous community is that fragile that they're the ones to save them and stop offensive work when, it's not, because it's it's crazy. Sometimes it's just outright ridiculous. I've been told my work looks too kitsch for a art fair, which was hilarious. I thought art fair is full of kitsch for artwork. That's the whole point of an art fair. You do get it, and sometimes it's you do feel when you're not the in thing at the moment. But I don't create my work for those things. I don't create my work for awards or anything like that. I'm a more storyteller, and photography is just a tool that I use. That's why you see my work is very different at times, because I stylize and create the work to match the story I'm telling at that time, which I guess sometimes can be a nightmare for curators. But I would like to say it's getting better, but everything goes in cycles, and at the moment it is a very hard time to be a Black creator in Australia, because there's a lot of people who are gatekeeping, who are using, I don't know if it's from the outcome from the voice, but they're trying to be these white saviors and just it's crazy what's happening. It's hard to explain it all, because it's all micro anger things. It's all over the place. It's all at different levels. And it's basically a lot of Black photographers and Black creators have become silenced in speaking up, but then also the type of work that's been curated to be showcased, and the type of work that's seen to be Black photography or Indigenous photography, but it's through only a certain style. And sometimes it's a style that is predominantly from non-Indigenous photographers' work, that they're going, this is what Black photography is acceptable to us.
Wow. Imagine the colonizers telling the Indigenous people how to do things, what's right and what's wrong. That sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. And
it's
so
a sad
it's
state of affairs, that's for sure.
We're going back to that cycle at the moment. But if you look at politics at the moment, it's understandable. So we're just pretty much being told to go back in our box for a little while, until the next movement where we can come out and say our bits. And you see that like I said, across the board. And, and to be honest, it's just lack of awareness or knowledge, or lack of you've got people who are in power who are saying that they're trying to be respectful for black photography or black art,
Yep.
who maybe only know a handful of black people
Yeah.
who haven't fucking traveled Australia. And, it's like, actually go and stop learning about us from a book and go and meet us.
Yeah.
And
Go to
stop
country.
Stop judging us by the one or two who are conveniently near you. Go out and actually learn, and go out and see what we want to capture, the stories.
Yeah.
There's a reason why a lot of us don't want to capture certain images and stuff like that. And
Because that there'll be pushback because of it, even though it's raw and it's real.
well, no, it's just that we don't want to. That's not what we see ourselves as. Sometimes we're at a point where we actually want to show the positives and the excellence of our people. We don't want to show the poverty of all the time. Every time there's, this thing of the kid in the dirt and everything, and like, that's the whole thing. But we actually want to. How about showing the people who are actually working hard or something? The positive aspects of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time it's this poverty porn level work.
Yeah. It's that bias in media, isn't it?
And it's as strong as ever. And now, and the sad thing is, our creatives and black photographers kind of know that that's the work that wins, or that's the work that gets in these spaces.
Yeah.
Now we have to kind of mimic that work now. So we actually we're hamstrung, because then we can't show the work that we really want to show. We have to go down a level to show that the work that is generally accepted.
Yeah. But I mean, that in itself is yet another example of, of cultural silencing.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's about telling you how you need to represent your own culture. And unfortunately, we don't seem to learn, Michael. We're not very good at learning, us white folk, us colonizers. It baffles me. But I guess in that vein, and I'm not discounting any of that, what you've said, but things like Black Lens, that makes them more important than ever, doesn't it? That Indigenous photographers supporting Indigenous photographers.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like, there's a lot of non-Indigenous photographers out there who want to help, who have helped, who help create pathways, and that, the people who are doing this stuff. But it's actually the other people who come in, who are experts in their fields or whatnot, but who are put in a position where they now have to be experts in black imagery. And they've never met a fucking black fellow in their life. I said, well, how can you tell?
Yeah.
So it's the laziness of institutions and award competitions who just, who are just lazy, basically.
Yeah.
If you have if you have an Indigenous category in your competition and you don't have an Indigenous judge or someone to help talk about the nuances of the work, well, then don't do the bloody Indigenous category,
Yeah.
whatnot. It's just, it's insulting to a lot of us in that regard, because they'll use their own bias of what they've seen and known to select or curate the work.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, and I wonder if other First Nation cultures in New Zealand, in North America, in Canada, Asia, parts of East Europe, whether they face the same sort of. It's almost like I think you mentioned earlier, microaggressions. About who you are as an artist and what you can and can't present, and censoring things. I wonder if other artists in other First Nation communities feel that too. Be an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah.
I fear the answer, of course, would be that everyone faces it. But yeah, a couple more
but I mean,
comments.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's a big downer at the moment, because we are resilient. You know, we're not fragile. It's a frustration that the rest of the mainstream community won't see amazing work because it's been gatekept by ignorance and just laziness, basically. But you can go online and find their work anyway. So that's the beauty of social media and the internet nowadays. Because the problem is a lot of people rely on stuff spoon-fed to them, and that's where we're missing out on. You know, so mainstream has to be better at spoon-feeding the masses the correct work and doing that properly.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't want to do the hard work of finding people online and, you know, chasing up stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
You know.
Let me have a look at these comments. Just give me a sec. Dennis just said thank you. I think in response to that question and your answer, your work is beautiful. What we were talking about was, he said it's fucking insane. It is. And final comment before I jump to Paul's comments. Dennis just says, as a New Zealand man, it is very different there in terms of, you know, that gatekeeping and that, you know, kind of toning down the cultural significance of works. Paul's in the chat. G'day, Paul. Haven't spoken to you for a bit. If I want to educate myself on the black imagery as a white fella photographer, what is the best way to go about that? Michael?
Well, just find a black photographer online or through social media and just say hello and ask for a chat. It's the best way.
Well, you can go to Black Lens because it's
you can go there and pick someone there. It's I mean, don't be afraid to just spark up a yarn. And like I said, the beauty of photography is that universal language, you know. Yeah. If you find a black photographer who shoots the same gear as you, then that's a segue into a conversation, you know.
Yeah.
And then go from there, you know. It's the best way to start a yarn is to talk about the cameras. Yeah. Talk about, you know, photography. That's the key thing. You know, and go from there.
It's the gateway, isn't it, for us?
Yeah.
I found that at the Creator Summit a couple of weeks ago, standing in line, just the conversations that were being had up and down that line before the doors opened about photography. And then when we got in, it just was overload talk about photography. But it was just interesting to see that community, you know, people that were standing next to me that I'd never met before, and we're comparing cameras and talking about lenses and what do you shoot? You know, that sort of stuff comes out. And you're right, it is a universal language, what we do, which I think is wonderful. Let's shift gear, because as you know, I'm a Fujifilm fanboy, fairly sure I'm the #1 ticket holder of that fan club. And you yourself shoot Fuji. You transitioned from Canon to Fuji. Can you tell us a little bit about why you made that choice?
When I was heavily into Canon, I bought the first Fuji X100, that model, because I did want just a nice, fun point and shoot.
Yeah. And
even back then, you know, I fell in love with just the image that came out of it. You know, I thought it was amazing. I still got this up here. Hopefully it'll have more value down the track. So yeah, just loving the colors. Obviously everyone talks about it, but for me, shooting Canon was perfection. You know, the best rendition of color you can get.
Yeah.
Obviously there's debate across, you know, Nikon and Sony were just new in the game then. So it's just, Canon and Nikon. Where the Canon was just perfect for what I needed. It was a workhorse. But then I wanted something different. And that was, I was talking about the balance of, I shot a lot of the Fuji just for myself, fun stuff that I would never shoot with my Canon because, you know, at the time, the 5D bulky beast and that, and I realized that people were very, when I brought the Canon out, they were very reserved, but then I bring out this little Fuji point and shoot, and they're a bit more relaxed. So obviously the intimidation of the size of the gear, I saw that play out, and then I did a lot more fun portraits with the little point and shoot.
Yep.
And then I realized, then the GFX 100 came out.
Yeah.
And I had to play with that stupidly at a store and said, okay, that's what I'm going to get. I'm going to save up for that. The quality, and it is a lot. Thank you, COVID. So yeah, I'm going to shoot everything on the Fuji. Once I get it, I'll do all my fine art stuff on the Fuji, because that's the look I was after. Just using the presets from that and a little bit of tweaking.
Yeah, they've got character. Hey?
Yeah.
Fujifilm colors, I think, have character, which I like, especially for my street photography stuff.
Yeah, which I could get from the Canon, because I had the 5DS and I was doing a lot of fine art work with that.
Yeah.
But I found myself tweaking a lot in the edit to get happy. And when I had to play with the Fuji, it just was closer to what I wanted than what I was getting from the Canon. Because the Canon was just too perfect in the color rendition that I was like, I want something with a bit different. Yeah. That's what kind of happened. And then talking to Warwick from Fuji for a while, and I happened to be in Sydney one day, and well, he can't get in trouble now because he doesn't work for them. He said, I'll pick you up. I said, all right. So he picked me up from the hotel, and just like there's some kind of bloody drug deal, he goes, yeah, just look under the seat. So I looked under, and he pulled out the XH2 pre-production model.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. So I said, that's my workhorse. So then I did, RF system was coming out, and I realized, do I stay with Canon and upgrade? And then I did the calculations, like it was going to cost me just a little bit more to do the switch.
Yeah.
And so I just did the switch. And and knowing going forward that my fine art work will be in a Fuji system was okay. I was happy with that. But then the workhorse stuff, realizing my work was going to be a lot of social media based output, and not big billboard banners. If I needed to do that, I had the GFX. So using a crop sensor just felt right if I had the right lens. So I made sure I got the right balance of lenses, so that people really didn't know I switched, because I didn't see a huge jump in image quality.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was very clever in that regard. And then I said, yep, I made the switch.
Yep.
And
for me, that really reinforces your point about it's not the gear, it's the person who makes the images great.
Yeah.
Gear helps.
Because I had the 35 mil, 50 mil prime and a 200 mil prime. That was my look.
Yeah. And
then I made sure I had the right lenses to kind of match it on the Fuji system, which I could pretty much almost perfectly. And I switched, and then the only difference was the color a little bit different, because I was editing on the Canon system to match this kind of look that the Fuji was closer to. That I wanted,
okay.
Ironically.
Yeah.
So, which for me is
really
the Astia, the Astia look.
Yeah.
It's the look that I like.
Yep.
And
I'm a classic chrome man myself.
Yeah.
It works well for my street photography.
Yeah. So I could buy two bodies and two lenses for the cost of the new, RF system.
Yeah.
RF5 with and one lens.
Yeah.
So I re-kitted everything for the cost, it was half the price, really.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And people didn't notice a difference. So the clients didn't know the difference. So for me, it was a big win.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, and the gear is lighter and cheaper, but quality is the same. You know, unless you're a pixel peeper, it just there's no difference, I find.
It's fascinating because
and sorry, before, and it was funny because the main gripe with people tell me, "Oh, why are you going Fuji? The autofocus is terrible." I said, if you can't make it work, then you need to practice more, because I have no problem using autofocus on the system. Sure, it's not snappy in some points. If you're a pro sports shooter, stick with Canon and whatnot, because they've got the gear for that in that regard. But for what I needed, everyday stuff, I have no issues, you know.
Yeah. And you're right. There's a reason why Canon bring out a flagship camera at every Olympics. You know, because they want to showcase their sports prowess, and you're right. That's where they literally win the game with that autofocus performance, subject tracking performance. But it depends on what you shoot and all of those sorts of things. I was going to ask you a question about Fujifilm, but I think I'll just jump to a couple of comments because we do have some Fuji shooters in the chat. Nev Clark, speaking of which, Nev is in WA. And I suddenly can't remember the name of the town. Is it Esperance? Nev, whereabouts are you in WA, mate? I'm sorry. I get it wrong every time. Nev says, I work in counselling and work with many and alongside many Indigenous people. It's enriched my life beyond words can describe. Thank you, Michael. That's lovely, Nev. And then Nev, who doesn't need very much convincing at all, Michael, to buy a new camera. I talked him into picking up a Q3. I gave him my usual speech of, half the world's on fire. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. Get the camera. If it makes you happy, then that's great. And he did.
Yeah.
But he's also a GFX shooter. Once you see a GFX camera, it's hard to unsee those files. It's jaw dropping, isn't it? Albany. Sorry, Nev. I got it wrong. He's in Albany.
Cold country.
That's south, isn't it? South of WA. Like south in WA, and you're up higher. It's a big country. I wonder what the distance is between the two. It must be something staggering.
Probably close to 3 and a bit thousand kilometers. Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
If not more.
Yeah. Being a city person, you lose sight of the scale of the country. And then every now and then I'll see social media posts where the person will say, I took off from Melbourne and I've been on the plane for, 7 hours and I'm still over Australia, because they're sort of heading across the country almost on their flight. It is such a huge country. What else do I want to talk about? So with your gear now, sorry, that's what I was going to say. I distracted myself. Sorry, Michael. It's interesting that your Fujifilm origin story is pretty much identical to mine. It was the original X100. A friend lent it to me to have a shoot. We went out for a walk. That was it. I was sold. And I was a Canon shooter, much like yourself. Got rid of all my Canon gear and then started to invest in Fujifilm. And I just found, especially those early Fuji primes, like the original 16, the original 23, they just had so much character and they were so sharp. So yeah, it's interesting. We share that same story. And so let's talk about what you're working on these days. What sort of commercial work have you got coming up, or are there projects that you've got, in the wings that you'd like to soon delve into? What's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work that I want to do is actually non-photography based. Well, actually, no, I'll retract that. I'm actually been playing around for the last year, playing around with Lidar photography.
Wow.
And really getting to that and what's possible, and working through the limitations and gear.
For the uninitiated, what is Lidar photography?
Oh man, I'm so new to it, I can't explain it in the most simplest term. Basically, it's just 3D scanning of an environment,
3D mapping stuff.
Using the infrared depth camera of I've just been using the latest iPhone for it at the moment.
Oh wow.
But you can use other photography, like capture stills and put it in the software. But I've just been using the phone just as a quick way of experimenting and testing it out, and then finding an angle and then exporting an image from that, because I do want to play on the aspect of kind of like I was talking about this the other day and I forgot how to explain it. So it's recreating a space that is obviously artificial, but you don't. Yeah, it's a weird thing because the images isn't 100% photorealistic. There's always twerks in it or weird things that happen. And for me, it's kind of like the actual camera and the software is creating its own version of the world. And it's, for me, it's like that's more real than what AI created stuff is, because AI is, obviously getting everything and creating something. The actual camera and the software is interpreting the world in real time of a certain subject or space. And I kind of like the idea of that. Is like, it's like how would a robot take a photo of a tree type thing, and that's as close as we could probably get. Because, we see the world in, two lenses, where this robot or whatever can actually see it in 3D space. So how's that different and all that crap? Anyway.
No, I think that's really cool. And I don't think I've ever seen people do it. I've seen people do it with drones, but it's more industrial and agriculture, kind of that Lidar 3D mapping of crops and livestock and that sort of thing. Yeah. But it's an interesting concept to then turn that to a photographer's eye, like you're describing.
Yes, it's very big in the commercial world because for drone stuff and, it's 3D mapping objects and stuff. But, it's like, it's close to an robot's taking a photo or something, or an Android, it's a funny play, because obviously a human has to hold the camera. So it's kind of like, and that's what I'm trying to, is that juxtaposition of, allowing the robot to capture something, but you still have to have that human touch. It's because you can't do any settings. It's like, it just captures it,
it's
the lighting's the lighting. You can't change
all the detail,
anything. There's no filters, nothing. It's just it's the robot capturing a space in what it sees. And
I think that's fascinating. I think it's a great twist on the use of that sort of 3D mapping to turn it into an artful purpose and make a statement, about this is how we see the world. This is how a machine sees the world.
Pretty much,
and comparing the two, I think that's really powerful.
Might not go anywhere, but it's just what I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. And, and I think that's overlooked about that, what you just said about the enjoyment. I often talk about, in some of the articles I write, about how switching to Fujifilm taught me the joy of photography, because I wasn't carrying heavy gear. I didn't feel like just because I've got a big expensive Canon and lens kit that I have to be a great photographer. I could just be myself. I can just very easily, wherever I go on walks, I take a camera in my hand, and it makes the process more enjoyable. It delivers that joy. And I think that's a really important balance, because it can't be all work. It can't be all meeting deadlines and deliveries to clients and negotiating outcomes with people. You've got to keep your art alive in one way or another. And I think a project like you're talking about, the Lidar, is a great way to do that. It's an angle that you don't know if it's going to work, and if anything, that makes it really exciting.
For sure.
Because you don't know unless you try, and that's what will then, I believe, advance your craft. Others will learn from you, and we step into new levels of creativity. I think that's really powerful. A couple of questions I want to ask you, just to finish up on gear. You said that you picked up the GFX. What GFX are you rocking now? Just the original 100?
Yeah, the 100.
The original. That's the big tall body, isn't it? It's quite a
Yeah.
It's quite a big camera.
It's a tank. It's a tank.
It is.
And
yeah.
I would love to get the 100S too.
Yeah.
Because even with the 100, it's too intimidating at times when I do want to take portraits of people.
Yeah.
I do want something a little bit smaller. So, you know,
yep. Yeah, the 100S Mark II. Yeah. Yeah. Wait for a sale. I reviewed the 100S2 when it came out because they launched it here in Australia rather than in Japan. Well, they did the Fuji presentation from Australia. And Charlie from Fujifilm was the one that went, oh, and here's the new 100S Mark II. And it's such a beautiful camera, but it's so much smaller than the original 100.
Yeah.
You know, it brings it down to almost the size of an XH2.
Yeah.
You know, it's very close. And like you say, that's less intimidating, you know. Yeah, very
And
cool.
it doesn't have all the video features from the 100 too. So going to my point, hopefully camera companies really make still focused cameras again, you know, and because anyone in the video world shooting on hybrids is a nightmare at most times because of all the gear you need to add to it, filters and all this stuff, you know, and so sometimes you just want to strip it back to what the cameras were meant to be, you know, and I would love like I said, I would love a medium format, small format that just does stills, you know, and and because if it wasn't a thing, then you know you wouldn't have these cameras like the Leica Q and all this stuff, you know, because these are cameras. You know, the camera companies do provide these little niche cameras for people.
Yeah.
So it's just more like, look, just make the best hybrid if you want, but also make the best stills camera you can. You know?
Yeah.
And, people will buy it. Like, God.
I think they would. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's lots of people out there like me who just want to take photos. I don't want to do video. I have no interest in it. You know, I use my MacBook webcam that's built in. I don't set up a video camera or anything like that. And I think there's a greater chunk of the population of, you know, people that do photography that don't touch video, yet we're paying for the features when we buy that camera. So yeah, it is interesting, but it would be a pretty bold move for any of the big brands to do it. If anything, I reckon it would happen with someone smaller, you know, maybe OM Systems or, you know, one of those, maybe even Fujifilm. You never know. But I will say this, though. There's been a resurgence, especially in the last 18 months, of people wanting, aside from that whole, you know, high flash, deep shadow, you know, look that people are seeing in their images, that, you know, there's this sort of trend of, oh, gosh, I think I've lost my train of thought. I've gone around in circles too much, Michael. I've lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? We're talking about Fujifilm, cameras that don't do video. Oh, look, it's gone. Don't worry, folks. It obviously wasn't important. Senior moment, Michael. I just had a senior moment. They've been happening more and more. I don't know if you're finding that, but yeah, the old memory is not what it used to be. Couple of quick comments here from the chat again. Nev said, yes, I have the 100S Mark II and it's bloody amazing. The 100S2 is phenomenal and it's 4K video only, which is interesting. So they still dropped it in there, but, you know, pretty standard kind of output. And then again from Nev, yes, Leica are amazing. Supplements to the GFX, the image quality in the Q3 is close to medium format with that 60 megapixel sensor. A question for you as a photographer, you know, and you're shooting with Fuji, you know, you're looking at 100 megapixel files. What do you think is next? What's going to be the next big push in camera technology?
Well, I think Fuji are probably going the stack sensor, so faster readout.
Yeah.
Was, I guess they got to follow from what Sony's doing because they make the sensors. So
Yeah, true.
I think faster readout is on a stills perspective is great if you want more of a burst speed, but
yeah,
I think it shouldn't be at the risk of losing dynamic range. I think the most important thing is dynamic range going forward, because God, you don't need sensors more than 60 megapixels really, but if your dynamic range is great,
yeah,
then that's the perfect sweet spot really. To go any bigger in pixels would be stupid.
Yeah,
if you I'd be happy
at the
with
cost of other things.
Yeah, like I would be happy with the dynamic range from the GFX 100. I would happy with that quality to like a probably 24 megapixel or even a 40 megapixel sensor. If you get the same dynamic range, whatever wizardry they can do, that would be perfect for people. Like, because how you can pull back the shadows and highlights and those GFX files is just amazing. If you can do that on a smaller sensor, then that's all you need to do.
And it's interesting, especially now when we're faced with the hugely rising cost of storage and memory, whether it be an SD card or a hard drive or an SSD for your computer. The higher the megapixels, the bigger those files become. And yes, it's great, especially if you need it for work, that you can extract so much more out of those, especially the GFX files. But it almost sort of when you're shooting at 60 megapixels and you're just you're doing it for fun, the files are just ridiculously big to manage, to store. Even just processing images, it takes so much longer the bigger the files get. I remember when I reviewed the GFX 100S Mark II, Fuji sent me a pre-production copy, and I went out and did some street photography, and I had that amazing 500mm, the 5.6 that came out with it, and I was testing and reviewing that as well. And then I got back home and I had like a 2017 iMac, and put the SD card in, and it just chugged. Like, it just could not handle the file sizes in Lightroom. My computer was already old as it was, so there's always that consideration. You step up to medium format, you might have to upgrade your computer and your storage system. That's another
definitely do. Yeah.
Of that process. It's not just about, I finally can afford a GFX. It's like, yeah, but how old's your computer? And how much storage have you got? Because you need to think of that as well. That's almost part of the purchase of a medium format camera.
Yeah. Yeah, because the irony is you get a medium format camera for the dynamic range, because you're most likely going to show off the image that you took on a phone, or if you rarely print it,
It's big.
So it's not the pixel, the print size that you want. It's the dynamic range. That's what makes the image amazing. So hopefully companies don't go any bigger than 120 or 150 megapixels, because there'd be no point to it if the dynamic range gets worse. So I think
and even if it does improve, like even if they go up to 120, 150 megapixels, what are we really chasing then? How much better could it possibly be for the average, even just the average professional photographer? Fine art photographers, like really high end, might have a use for that sort of sensor. But in reality,
it'll be for those people who love the crop, and who don't want to get closer to the subject, or I don't know. There's for me, is just get the best quality image you can, in camera, and if you can do that, then the rest of it is, you can just tweak it. But I don't know. We're at the whim of the camera companies. We'll go whichever way they do.
Yeah.
And hopefully they listen to us enough to, make things easier. But yeah,
Yep. Better outcomes. That's all we need. Final question for you today, Michael. I am aware of time. We're almost at the 2-hour mark, and you're hanging in there, which I really appreciate. This is a question that Justin would normally ask at the end of every interview, so I'm going to ask it on his behalf. And his question goes like this. So let's imagine, let's imagine you're out and about. It's the end of the world. The zombie apocalypse has become a reality. Everyone's becoming zombies. There's people eating brains everywhere. Just keep in mind, this is Justin's question, not mine. But if you knew that that was on the horizon, the zombie horde were marching towards your place in Broome, and you could only grab one camera and one lens to document the end of the world, what would that camera and lens be?
I would usually say whatever's closest to me. But if I had a choice, it'll be the GFX 100 and the 80mm. Just because the weight of that lens and body, I could definitely, stop a few
Weaponize it, you mean?
Yeah, it's just a black.
Yeah, that's a good idea. A little bit of self-defense from a medium format camera. I seem to have lost you. I think you're frozen, and I hope you're still there, mate.
Still there? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, just the video. I think the video is freezing. Sorry.
Yeah, but to be honest, I've got the Fuji X100V, and it's just a beautiful little camera.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't get to that point where we need to use it.
Yeah, let's hope. There's enough crap going on in the world. We don't need a zombie apocalypse. Well, look, I think that might be a great place to draw a close to today's interview. Michael, I really, on behalf of everyone here and on behalf of the folks in the chat, thank you so much for joining us on the Camera Life podcast and sharing your story and being open and honest and exposed about some of the challenges you face. Being a member of a First Nations community, creative as well, and those challenges that still exist today. I think we don't seem to learn from our mistakes. And it's sad to hear that those sorts of challenges are still, just as prevalent, as you said, as ever. And we certainly hope for change. If folks want to check out your work, where's the best place for them to go?
Just on Instagram, really. Jalaru Photography, or just on my website, jalaru.com.
Yeah, wonderful. So, folks, go and check out Michael's work. He's got several Instagram accounts, so the challenge is for you to find them. But yeah, go and check out his work, and definitely have a look at Black Lens. It's the Instagram account and the website. Got some amazing photographers on there that are definitely worth checking out. And who knows, maybe your next collaboration, if you're looking to do a project, maybe your next collaborator is in that group. Michael, thank you once again. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and getting to hang out and chat with you more. I'm just going to, just before we end today's stream, I just want to say goodbye to some folks in the chat. Let's see who's been here. So Nev, thank you so much, Nev. Paul Sutton. Gosh, Nev, you've got a lot to say this morning. The comments are thick and fast. Shane Wookie was here. Lisa Leach was here. Philip Johnson. Couple of comments here from Paul. He said very quickly, if they go much higher in pixels, I will need to get an eye upgrade. Yeah, that's a very good point. Philip Johnson, first in the chat. Thanks, Greg and Michael. Good show. Have a great day, everyone. Matt Palmer from Alpine Light in Bright. Matt, good to see you. Thanks for the chat, fellas. Lucinda from Geelong, thanks so much for sharing your insight and story, Michael. Lisa, once again, thank you, Greg and Michael. Oh, and Sam Olsen. Great interview, Greg. Thanks, Sam. I look forward to catching up with you. Sam just went and spent a ridiculous amount of time in Japan doing all the touristy and the photography things. I'm very jealous. But on that note, we'll say farewell. Unfortunately, we don't have any outro music because Justin takes care of that and I can't do it from here. But yeah, we certainly look forward to seeing what's on the horizon for you. We'll keep an eye out. And if you ever want to jump back on the Camera Life podcast, we'll always make space for you. So thank you so much. All right, folks, we'll leave it at that. How's that for timing? 2 hours on the dot. We started on time. We finished on time, Michael. We are quite the team. All right, folks, we will see you on Monday evening, 7:30 p.m. Monday for the Random Photography Show. And we've got a little bit of catching up to do with your images because we weren't able to do it this week. But yeah, we'll see you then. All right, guys, be safe. Thank you. Bye.